This is Genesis Perolo, and I'm here with Dr. Cantu. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So I'm excited to dive into this interview on our Veteran Spotlight series. So it'll be great today. So make sure that you grab your family and friends and listen to this one. So a little bit about Dr. Cantu. He actually received his Doctor of Chiropractic and Bachelor of Science degrees from Parker University. When he attended Parker University, he was actually the student veteran representative and helped work with the university on military relations and affairs. He served 8.5 years in the U.S. Army with 2 war tours as a combat engineer and a combat medic. Dr. Cantu also served as a Texas representative from 2013 to 2014 for the Patriot Project Military and Veteran Chiropractic Care, which is a nonprofit foundation whose focus is on providing chiropractic care to our current serving veterans and wounded warriors at no cost at all. Today, he is an associate professor at our university that teaches physiotherapy and is the advisor for the Student Veteran Organization on campus. What a bio.
There's a lot there.
There was a lot. Well, thank you for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Of course. So in your roles as combat engineer and combat medic in the military, what were your responsibilities? What did you do?
So for combat engineers, there's several different types of engineers in the military. Specifically, my job was explosives. So I was trained to find and disassemble landmines by hand, to be able to prep and basically blow up C4, TNT, you name it. So that was pretty much my job there. Now, once I finished my training, I went into Bradley training. So a Bradley is basically like a small tank for most people. Now, I will tell you firsthand, I'm not a tanker. So any tankers out there, please don't be upset with me. I did not wear tanker boots. I can tell you that. But it has a 25 millimeter chain gun for their main cannon. And it's a tracked vehicle. And I was the gunner for it. And I was the gunner for the Bradley whenever I went to Iraq. And then once I came back from Iraq, I reclassed, so basically changed my career into combat medic. So I went to training for that, and then I deployed with the 101st as the medic for 2nd Platoon, 2nd of the 506th out of the 101st. So
That's a whole lot of responsibility and serious responsibility. So Thank you so much for your service. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun.
And then for those 2 war tours that you did and you served in, can you tell us specifically during those times that I'm sure were probably difficult, how did you find strength and really how did you find hope during those times?
My first tour, I was already married, and we already had 1 daughter, my first child. And that definitely kept me going a lot. I mean, when you're over there, you really can't focus too much on home because then that will distract you from doing your job. But knowing that I had a wife and child at home waiting on me was definitely my motivation to be careful with what I was doing. As careful as one can be when you're hunting, explosive devices. But aside from that, it was your friends. You're what we called our battle buddies. The guy right next to me, my Bradley commander, my driver, we were a tight group. We would definitely know instantly if somebody was having a bad day. We could pick it out pretty easily, and you couldn't keep secrets from each other. It's a friendship that most people will never get to experience, but it's one that I was grateful that I got to have with both my fellow combat engineers. And as a medic, you kind of fell outside of the rank structure. You had rank, but you could sit down and hang out with the lieutenant just as quickly as you can sit down and hang out with the lowest level private, because you just they don't refer to you as rank. They just refer to you as doc. So it was an interesting dichotomy between the 2 different MOSs that I had. But in the end, it really comes down to just having those buddies beside you going through the same struggles. When somebody would get what we call the Dear John letter in the mail, their spouse divorced them or their girlfriend, broke up with them, something like that, something really tragic or something even more tragic happens back home, you leaned on each other the whole time. And it was the only way that you can really get through things.
It sounds like community really got you through it, and your family.
Definitely does. It definitely does.
And then reflecting now in present day, how does it feel to have served for our country?
Honestly, sometimes it feels like a dream. Because I separated in 2009, and I served 8.5 years, which is a long time. Don't get me wrong. I was at the point in my career where I either had to, I had one last reenlistment left, but whenever I went to go reenlist, that was it. You're in for the full 20. I didn't have another 3-year reenlistment that I could do. So I had to make a decision. Do I stay in or do I get out? My wife and my kids, because at the time we had already had 3 children now, already followed me through 2 wars. I survived some near-death experiences, fairly close, and I lost my platoon sergeant while I was over there. So it really hit home that we're not as invincible as we thought we were. And units throughout the military will experience that, where they're going really strong, and then one casualty happens in your group, and now your confidence in surviving things degrades. So knowing all that, it was time. It was time to separate. But as far as what I feel now, I have a lot of pride for what I've done and what my fellow veterans have done. And we understand each other on a level that civilians, and no offense to that term, but anyone who's not served will never be able to truly understand. And that right there is anytime that I feel that I'm struggling, because, there will be times that happens to all vets. I know that there's a whole community out there of like-minded individuals that have been through similar situations that, just like when I was in the military, we can lean on. And it really helps out, and it gets us through the difficult times, because civilian life doesn't make a lot of sense to us. I wish it did, but it's controlled chaos. Where in the military, we had a structured routine that we followed. We knew every Monday we were going to go to the motor pool. Every morning at 6 a.m. we're doing PT. We know that chow was right at 12 o'clock. It's a routine that you're just in. In the civilian world, you don't have that anymore. And that's a big struggle that a lot of the vets face.
It's a good reminder to those out there that you're never alone, that
Yes.
people share experiences, and to really remind yourself of that during the difficult times, perhaps. And then what brought you back to school after serving in the military? What made you want to go into chiropractic and be like, hey, I want to dive into this after serving 8.5 years?
Well, interestingly enough, when I left the military, I actually went to work for my father-in-law. He's a DO. And I was just doing front office reception type stuff. But I had applied to nursing school. And I had gotten accepted. But while I was working for him, he had a nurse practitioner that worked with him as well. And that's what I was going to go to school for. And it was funny. I went up to the nurse practitioner. I said, I want to pick your brain for a second. He goes, yeah, what's up? I said, I've been noticing a lot of patients come in, and they got this illness or that illness going on, or this disease or that disease. And from what I can tell, it's basically we give them medicine and send them out the door. And he goes, yeah, that's basically it. He goes, you just figure out what's wrong with them, you give them a medicine that works for that, or something you think would work for that, and they come back and they tell you if it's working or it's not. I said, yeah, but that's just helping the symptoms that they're having. It's not fixing what's actually wrong with them. And he goes, yeah, that's all we do, is you just give them something to get them by. And I was like, yeah, but I thought we were going to get to actually get them better, fix their problem. And my father-in-law overheard the conversation, and he comes up to me and goes, sounds like you want to be a chiropractor instead. And I was like, and I'll be honest with you, I didn't know anything about it. I think my wife had went to a chiropractor one time. And to me, they were just those people that crack people's backs. And I even said that. I said, how does that help anything? They just pop your back and make you feel better. And he goes, it's a little bit more than that. So I looked into it. And sure enough, it come to find out to me that in comparison to medicine, don't get me wrong, medicine is important. It truly is. But when you're trying to figure out the root cause instead of just the symptoms, that's what chiropractic does. They sit there and hunt down the actual mechanism within the body that's going wrong, that's gone haywire. And it could be something as simple as the way that you sit. It could be something as innocuous as the way you sleep. Or it could be something as traumatic as a car accident. Everybody's different, but everybody has the same processes that go on in the body. And that's what chiropractors learn to use, those processes, and figure out where those processes are not working. And they go in there and they try to tweak those so that they can work properly. Because if you can get that to work properly, everything else is going to take care of itself. The symptoms shown up because that process was going wrong. And it's fascinating to me that we don't need a pill or a shot to find those if you're looking for the right things. And that's what got me into chiropractic.
Wow, that's an incredible story. Never heard one like that before. That's super encouraging. And, it comes to show you never know where you're supposed to be on your career path in life. You think it's one thing, and the next thing you know, you're like, wow, this is my purpose. This is what I was made to do. So that's incredible. And I just want to dive deeper into that. So once you got into chiropractic and became a doctor, what was that like for you in terms of fulfillment? What did that do to you in terms of impact?
So my first few years being in chiropractic school was a rough transition for me because I went straight from being in the military to civilian life, where, again, it didn't make a lick of sense to me. I couldn't understand why people would show up 15 minutes late for a class or 30 minutes late for a test when I had been there for at least 2 to 3 hours in advance. And all of my fellow veterans out there will understand this concept, that if you are on time, you're late. If you're 15 minutes early, you're on time. And we had this sense of, if your boss is there before you, then you're late. And that's just the way we worked in the military. So making that transition into the civilian world and getting into a routine at the university was tough for me. We didn't really have that big of a veteran community at the time here. But those of us who were, we tend to stick together. And then it wasn't until about try 3 that my wife came up to me and she said something that was very profound. She goes, "Babe, you're working really hard and we appreciate what you're doing. Don't get me wrong." And I said, "Yeah. Where's the but?" Because I know there's a but coming. She goes, "But you're spending too much time at school and not enough time with your family." And I was like, okay, I've heard this conversation before because that's what happens in the military. And she goes, "You basically have 2 options. Not an ultimatum, but this is reality. You either graduate top of your class with a fancy Greek words or Latin words on your degree, and you're a chiropractor. Or you graduate, you may not have the fancy words on your degree, but you're still a chiropractor, and your family knows you." And it took me about an entire try to fully digest what was going on. And what came to my realization is I was trying to apply military logic to education. And that was, if you work hard and you devote all of your time and attention to it, you become good at what you're doing. But in the military, you don't. Military comes first, then family. And that's what I was applying to my education. And when I realized that that was doing more harm than good, I flipped the script, and I put more focus on my family and my kids, and less on spending as much time as I possibly could at school. Now, don't get me fired for this. I definitely recommend studying. I was blessed in the respects that my studying is different than others. I'm a very kinesthetic learner, which means everything I learn has to be hands-on. So I never took notes in school. I was lucky in that respect. I could just listen to what they were saying, then I would practice it, and then it would start to click, and I started to understand everything that was happening. So once I figured out my method of learning, I could just focus on that aspect of it, and I didn't have to spend so long behind a book. So my recommendation in that regard would be find what works for you. Don't just stick to doctrine. Figure out what's best for you so that you can understand the material to the best of your ability, so that once you've integrated it into who you are, it doesn't require recall. You don't have to think about it. It just comes naturally then. And once you get out of your body's way, once you let your mind stop controlling your body can do what it knows. And in my case was how to adjust people, how to find the subluxation. That's how I got through school. And that's how I integrated my military training into my education.
Wow, that's incredible. But at least you learned, that balance, to keep things healthy.
It was a tough time to learn it, but I learned it thankfully. Because in the end, my family still knows me, and I'm still a doctor.
Yes, exactly. And then today, in your current role as advisor for the student veteran organization on campus, what do you enjoy the most about it, really?
Oh, what do I enjoy the most? There's so much to choose from.
Right.
The camaraderie. Again, having been through what they're going through right now, I can understand a lot of the same emotions that they're feeling. I can understand a lot of the same struggles and the hardships that they face. And now that the university and our veteran community has grown exponentially, not just in sheer number of veterans on campus, but the resources that we have for them now. We have a veterans lounge where only veterans are allowed into, and actively serving, because we do have some of those on campus as well. But you're not allowed to go. We have a keypad lock on that, so that you have to, punch in a code to be able to get into, which allows the veteran to be able to step back and go, this is overwhelming. And not just because of the sheer volume of content, but it could just be overwhelming in a sense of the struggles that they're facing with the things that they've done in their past in the military. Because I'll be honest with you, everything we do in the military is not always pretty. The difficulty that they're facing with their fellow students. For a lot of our veterans, they're non-traditional students as it is. They've already had a career. A lot of them are getting up there in age. I'm not going to say we're old, but we're getting up there in age. So take all of that, and then you place them right next to somebody who just went from high school into college. Not that that's a bad thing, but the mindsets are entirely different. The way that they process information is entirely different. I have a child who's autistic. I love him to death. But there are certain phrases and statements that I can say to one child of mine that they understand fully. And there's phrases that the exact same phrase I'll use for that child, and they're lost. It's like, for example, they tell me, can I have a cookie? And it's late in the evening. And I'll just tell them, knock yourself out. Now, to the average individual, knock yourself out just means go for it. Enjoy yourself. Well, to my son, he just stood there and got a concerned look on his face. And he looks over at his mama. He's like, why would I knock myself out? And my wife goes, no, sweetie, that just means you can have one. And he was very confused and walks away. And that's what happens in the military realm here at the university, is that they interpret it differently.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
It's so fun to be there to help them, to be that resource for them to go, that's what this means. And then it clicks.
I love that. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Cantu, for your time today. We appreciate your service, and we appreciate you here at Parker
It's
University.
truly my pleasure.
Well, till the next time, thank you, everybody, for tuning in.